All right, everybody. Happy draft day. Welcome into the Eye on Sports with BBALL Jones. It is Thursday, and it is time to discuss the NBA draft. Who is fired up? Your Memphis Grizzlies with the second overall pick of the draft. And that is pretty awesome. A lot of interesting things going on behind the scenes with all these NBA teams. So we will discuss a lot of that. Plus the Mike Conley trade, which of course happens right as we're about to go, right when we get off the air yesterday. Thus, we were unable to discuss it yesterday, and so you've probably already heard 12, 15 hours of mindless sports talk about the Mike Conley trade. But of course, I know you've been waiting to discuss that with the Eye on Sports and BBALL Jones. You can call the show at 901-452-3094. And that's the number you can call up the Grizzlies trade, the Grizzlies draft pick. You can talk about anybody else's draft pick you'd like. We're welcome to discuss that with you. And just been told by Jay that we may not be on the air, but we might be on YouTube. That's certainly a possibility. So you can try that. AM 1600, WMQM Memphis 1600. That's the how to get to us on YouTube. So anyway, like I said, we've got the NBA draft tonight. Grizzlies are seemingly set on their pick with John Morant. There's a lot of people talking about John Morant nationally, which I love. It means he's not, means even if he doesn't end up being that great of a player, at least we know that he's getting a lot of respect nationally. It's funny, I was discussing the draft with my nephew, who's 8 years old, and I said, the draft is tonight. We might be on YouTube, but we might knock this off in a second anyway. I was just going to draft with him, and I said, the Grizzlies at the second pick. And he said, well, that means they can still get Zion Williamson. And I said, no, they can't get Zion Williamson. He's going to get picked number one. Yeah, but New Orleans hasn't picked him yet. I said, well, that's true. So he said, well, they haven't picked him yet, so that means the Grizzlies can still get him. And I said, well, no, they can't get him. New Orleans pick him.
Exciting to me because it was a first-round pick, and he didn't play a lot. It was a playoff team. You should have a rotation, unless that was a whiff. He should be a rotation guy. Two other guys in the deal, Jay Crowder and I'm forgetting the other guy, but the idea that
Korver.
Oh, Korver, right?
But reports are he's not going to even end up being here.
Did either one? And this part I don't get.
Either one, Jay Crowder?
Yeah, probably that they're both trade bait. And I don't really understand that. Why wouldn't, for a young team that's not going to be competitive, why wouldn't you want a veteran that could give you some shooting? But the thought is that it's just more valuable to the Grizzlies to move those guys, because they're obviously going to be very valuable to like a contender. In terms of like the Lakers would love a Korver. So, and in return, what they'll get is cap space or assets, right?
Right. And I was going to say, the truth is, Korver's 37. Crowder's not that old, but he's been in the league for a while. And my concern would be as a GM, which I'm not, but if I was, my concern would be you put two veterans who just came from, a playoff team on a team you're trying to rebuild with youth. With youths, do you think that they might be detrimental to your plan?
They're veterans, and they probably don't want to be on a team,
right,
like you said. But they're pros. But The interesting thing, and was my take coming in. I was going to give this take, and it's in a lot of it not only applies to the trade, but it applies to who the Grizzlies are going to draft, which is likely Ja Morant. Although I saw an interesting rumor last night. We'll come back to that. Remind me to come back to that. But the interesting thing about the NBA is I think it's a sport more than any other where conventional wisdom just holds. Conventional wisdom sort of works in the NBA. I think it's because the rosters are small enough, and basketball is a pretty simple game in terms of it's not nearly as intricate as managing a baseball roster or a football roster. And so conventional wisdom just sort of holds in the NBA. And conventional wisdom is that when you get a guy like Kyle Korver and maybe to a lesser degree Jay Crowder on a rebuilding team, you're going to move them. And the team's value and really fun because they move them or waive them, take the cap space, and then later on trade the cap space for bad contracts and assets, which is just the weirdest thing. But it's like everybody says that's what they're going to do. So follow me here. They get a guy with a salary like a Korver that's in demand. They can waive him or move him. And another team, and then the Grizzlies just have that extra cap space. They'll be well below the cap. And then, so you think, oh, that's great. They can sign free agents. Well, no. What they'll want to do, because free agents don't really come to Memphis necessarily. I mean, some would. But what they would then do with that cap space is trade it, because you can trade cap space, I guess, for bad contracts. You can take on bad contracts and draft picks. So it's sort of a real long game here. So fast forward to like next summer. The Lakers have no cap space, but they want to sign a max free agent. So they trade some bad players to the Grizzlies, which you think, why would you want that? And draft picks, although they've already traded all their draft picks, so that's not a great example. But some other team that wants to sign a player. So that's the play with a guy like Korver, and I learned that yesterday when trying to read about this deal. But the more exciting part of the deal, Ira, as I said, is that you get at least one young asset in Grayson Allen who should be able to come in and play minutes for you right away. What? Wow.
No, hopefully he will be able to contribute something to the team. I think he will.
He was a first-round draft pick last year, and he was a tough team, so he wasn't going to get a ton of minutes.
No, you're right. Absolutely. I mean, I think he'll give it his best.
So yeah, there's upside to that.
Plus, I like he's 30.
He's 6'5". He's dirty.
I like dirty. I like it.
He's whatever. So you've got Grayson Allen. You can put him in your rotation with guys like Ja Morant, presumably, although we'll get to that rumor in a minute. Jaren Jackson Jr., Dylan Brooks. You have a core of young guys that's going to lose a ton of games. And then you're going to add another high pick likely next year if you don't convey to Boston. Because you could end up with a top 6 pick.
This is the 1990s, bro. They're all high picks, you know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
What's the rumor?
Okay, so the rumor is this. Everyone knows, it's like that line from the Wes Anderson movie. Said, everybody knows Custer died at Little Bighorn. What this book presupposes is maybe he didn't.
Yeah.
So it's like the Grizzlies draft. Everybody knows the Grizzlies are going to get. That being said, the rumor was that who was the team? New Orleans. No, because they're number one.
The Pelicans.
No.
The Knicks, the Lakers, the Knicks,
the Knicks and the Hawks. One of them that they were fighting to get to that second pick because they wanted to draft not Morant, but Barrett, and that the Grizzlies would then end up with 2 top 10 picks. Who has? Is it the Hawks that have 2?
The Hawks have 8 and 10. But
yeah, and so that the Hawks would package 8 and 10 and some young assets to the Grizzlies for that pick.
All right, do you do it? You know if you
No.
if you go to 8, you don't get that. You don't get
No.
No. Hey, bless you.
Thank you.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
No, I don't do it. And for all the reasons that everyone's already discussed, I just don't.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the trade for a second. You know, like I said, I texted you when we got out of here, and I was like, of course they decided to announce the trade right as we get out of here, so we don't have a chance to discuss it on the air. But the question is this: you look at the trade. Normally, what you'll do is you'll say, and especially, I mean, unfortunately, I hate saying this, but oftentimes you'll look at something and you'll say, oh my God, what were we doing? And you looked at this trade, Conley with the Jazz, and I looked at it and I said, we did the Grizzlies did pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, they got what they needed.
Yeah. I hear you. My thought is, again, you don't do the trade to trade down because you need to maximize your percentage chance of getting franchise-changing players. And in what's thought to be a pretty weak draft, you want to stay as high as possible. John Morant, by all accounts, is a player that is potentially at that level. So I love what they're doing. I absolutely love what they're doing. I'm excited about the possibility that they're going to get, again, John Morant tonight. I'm excited to see what they'll do with that 23rd pick that they got. We didn't mention that yet in the Utah trade yesterday with Conley. So let's break it down. Not only did they get Grayson Allen, they got the 23rd pick in tonight's draft. So they'll get another piece there, and you'll be able to dream about it. Now, again, as I just said, weak draft. So, the likelihood that that player is going to be some great player is low. Okay, but at least you have somebody else to take a look at that will get immediate playing time and immediate opportunity. I'm talking about the 23rd pick, which they'll get. So they're going to add 2 young players tonight at a minimum. They added 1 yesterday. And then they have this other pick that they got from Utah, another first-round pick that will come at some point in the next 3 or 4 years, right? And it's lottery protected, all that stuff. If it's 1 through 7, they won't get it this year, that year, whatever. Basically, if the Jazz finish right outside the playoffs or right in the next couple of years, the Grizzlies are going to get another first-round pick somewhere in like 14 range, and it moves around over time. But they basically reacquired a first-round pick, which sort of makes up for the one that they're going to lose to Boston either this year or next. So they have they added 2 first-round draft picks and last year's first-round draft pick, all for Conley. I think it's a good situation, and I'm excited about their future for the first time in a while. That's my hot NBA draft take, Ira. And then you're just gonna have to keep watching for stuff that happens throughout the day, because you'll get trades. The Lakers are trying to build up around Anthony Davis and LeBron James. The Knicks are trying to retool. The Celtics are in turmoil. So
that's something I wanted to mention. Your buddy, I was listening to your buddy Clay Travis, and he was talking about the whole Anthony Davis trade in regard to how he's got a situation where if they do the trade at a certain time, then he gets a certain amount of more money, and it leaves less money for them to try and go after free agents. There's a whole whatever thing going on with that. And so his Clay, whatever his name is, he says that there's going to be some backroom dealing going on where Anthony Davis will get that money made up to him by being a part of the Space Jam sequel, which LeBron is, one of the producers of. His production company is producing the movie.
Right.
So, which is, say, hey, you leave that money so we can go get another, max free agent like Jimmy Butler or Kawhi or whatever, and then, we'll make that money up to you in the Space Jam thing. And I'm not, he's hypothesizing this. However, the truth is, if there is any truth to that, it is a genius move, and I think you might see more of that type of thing going on in the future. You circumvent the cap by, because now so many more of these guys have real stuff going on outside of the world of sports. It's not just like, hey, whatever basketball player, give me $1 million so I can open up a Chick-fil-A franchise. They're actually involved with stuff. Like Steph Curry's got this this TV show coming out on ABC. You seen that, the commercial?
No.
It's on during the finals.
Yeah.
It's like some sort of extreme putt golf thing.
Right.
Like it's crazy. It's like
that sounds great.
What's their what's that show they had that came out on ABC? It was, a couple of the ESPN guys hosted it.
Wild World
Where they had
Sports.
where they had like the obstacle course thing.
Double Dare.
Like Wipeout or something. Is that right? Does that ring the bell?
I don't know.
I think it's like they're playing like miniature golf, and you got like friggin' the wrecking balls coming at you and stuff. Anyway, so they can certainly, like, stars of the teams that have like these other entities going on. There are ways for them to cut other guys in that may say, hey, look, we can't give you the max. Give us a discount. I'll make it up to you. We'll make it up to you in some other way, shape, or form. And I wonder if that becomes sort of a trend in the NBA. Keep in mind the innovator of all innovators.
Yeah.
Avron Fogelman.
Albert Einstein.
Avron Fogelman.
Innovator of all innovators.
Avron Fogelman, local businessman and former owner of the 1985 world champion Kansas City Royals. You remember him, right?
Yeah, of course.
Well, you remember what he did with all of his huge contracts?
No.
Like with Dan Quisenberry and with, like, I don't know, like Willie Wilson. There were a bunch of guys on that 85 Royals team that instead of paying, at the time, like $1 million was a pretty big contract in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And, these guys were, star players. Instead of paying them, straight cash, homie, he had them involved in, like, REITs, real estate deals, real estate trusts, to where the contract was going to pay them in perpetuity for, like, 20 years after they were done with baseball. So it was a way for that. I mean, there's no cap in baseball, but it was a way for the owner to say, hey, we don't want to. We're a small market team. We can't just keep dealing out tons of cash. So we'll get you in these real estate deals, and we'll guarantee you, $200,000 a year, for 20 years after you're done with baseball, as opposed to a $4 million contract. So I think it was. What are you laughing at?
It's just this is a great. This is interesting. Saber. This is why, in my opinion, this is the best radio show.
I don't understand what's so funny about it.
It's like we're talking the NBA draft, and now nobody else is going to bring up Brett Saberhagen today.
I said Quisenberry, but Saberhagen wasn't on it too.
I'm sure.
I'm just saying that it's a way to circumvent cap or major cash outlay to continue. Oh, God almighty, I swear.
Don't worry about it.
We're on FM, but we're not on the AMs.
Oh, we are?
Well, yeah. Great. What does that mean?
Tweet that out to our followers.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out right now.
What FM station? I'll get our listeners to
93.3.
Okay, let me see. Okay. Yeah, Quisenberry. How's that working out for him?
I think he's deceased.
No, well, but the investment, I mean.
No, I mean, I think the time frame is up. If you remember,
I never got a straight answer. Something with their teeth. It was cows. He was invested in cows.
Oh yeah. And if you remember, I think Bobby Bonilla. Remember, he just got his last paycheck. I think from the Mets for like $1 million.
No, it's like 10 more years.
I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway, back to the free agency. Adrian Wojnarowski, you're going to want to stay tight to him today. I mean, he's got all the hot stories like...
The guy knows everything.
Yeah. So the Pistons and the Bucks consummated a trade. You see this one? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it involves John Lure and the 30th pick in the draft.
Johnny Badger?
Yeah, Johnny Lure's headed to the Bucks. That's where he's from, right? Wisconsin.
He played at Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
It is hard to imagine, by the way, a player that played for University of Wisconsin that wasn't from Wisconsin, maybe Minnesota,
why would you do that?
Or North Dakota. But, they just had a lot of corn-fed white boys.
Tony Snell is involved in that deal.
T. Snell?
Yeah.
He had real potential coming out of New Mexico. I think he's been hurt a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So anyway,
my take again, conventional wisdom. The thing about Ja Morant.
You know, I don't like conventionalism.
I don't like it either.
Give me unconventional.
Well, but there is none in the NBA. That's my point. It's like you know who's going to be great, or you have a good idea. It's not that you're always going to be right. Usually. So here was the one that I mentioned at the top of the show. I just want to be real clear about it. If New Orleans offered this, see, no. Yeah, okay, I did have it right a little bit. This is the tweet from Peter Vesey. Remember Vesey? Peter Vesey.
Dude, Peter Vesey was like the David Aldridge, the who are the other like reporter guys that do the NBA? He was the everything NBA when it was the NBA on NBC circa like 92, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And they were like, all right, dude, we've seen enough out of you.
Yeah.
He worked for USA Today, I think.
He was definitely that guy for a few years. Hey, Ira, is it Munford or Mumford with an M or an N?
Munford.
Munford, yeah.
Well, who said that? Who's willing to know that?
I asked our listener if we're on 93.3. He said yes, but with a lot of static. I said, well, it probably sounds better in Munford.
Could be.
Anyway, here's the deal. Peter Vesey tweets, New Orleans is assembling assets in an all-out effort to leapfrog the Knicks into the second slot in order to secure R.J. Barrett. Obviously, the Pels are offering Grizz number 4 pick as part of the payment. Okay, so what about this potential deal? This is Mark Giannotto picked up on this. Would you do this, Ira? The Eye on Sports. You're on the spot. If New Orleans offered you... Exactly. Brandon Ingram, the number 4 pick, and one of those future Lakers first-round picks to move to the number 2 spot, would you do it?
Like to move to the 4, trade the 2 for the 4?
Yeah, you get, in return for the 2, you get Brandon Ingram, the 4 pick, and a future first-round pick. So then you'd have the 4, the 23, and 2 future first-round picks coming your way, one from the Lakers, one from the Jazz.
All right, so the questions you're going to have to ask yourself is this: number 1.
Wait a minute, I just asked you a question.
No,
you're breaking down your thought.
Yeah, I'm breaking down my thought. The question I have to ask myself is this: number 1, is there a guy at 4? Let's just say the Pelicans get the number 1 and the number 2. They're going to take Zion Williamson, and let's just say they pick R.J. Barrett. The first question is do the Knicks take Ja Morant in number 3? Do you think they will? Or do you think they have somebody else on their board they would pick? Then you have to ask yourself this. At the 4th slot, is there a guy out there that we love almost as much? And I mean almost, meaning like 100% on Ja Morant, 99% on player X.
Garland is the other player.
Is there a guy, right, probably Darius Garland. Is there a guy that we like almost as much as Ja Morant, that if the Knicks take Ja Morant, we can get at number 4? And if the answer is we can live with the fact that Ja Morant might end up being an all-star and a superstar player, and we really like this other guy, and we can live with that, then you really have to say, yeah, we could do it. We would do it. Because...
You know what would be the best?
What would be the best?
And I guess it would.
If the Knicks picked Darius Garland and we got John
yes.
Well, obviously.
Well, and I guess that's a possibility. I mean, if they're truly fighting over Barrett.
Right.
If they're truly fighting over Barrett, but you know that, like, the Knicks like Garland more than Morant. I mean, I just can't imagine that's true, though. Because everybody thinks Morant is Morant.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
how about what I just said, Ira?
Yeah, I mean...
Everybody thinks Morant is Morant.
Yeah, and of course, the one day that I don't have Duke is Duke on my sheet, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jay. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Just because we can take a break.
Yeah.
We'll play a couple of commercials and then we'll come back.
Yeah, I gotta make a call.
Shane's here. He might be getting us back up on the.
Yeah, he's working it.
We'll see. All right, you're listening to the Eye on Sports with BBALL. Jones, it's draft day. I figured I better join before I get drafted.
Son, there ain't no draft no more.
There was one?
Yeah, that's the best line.
No, there was. I know. Hey, Cruz. Why do they call you Cruiser?
That'll call him the dork.
Hey.
All right. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Bud Light, real American heroes. Real American heroes. Today we salute you, Mr. Golf Ball Washer Inventor. Mr. Golf Ball Washer Inventor. The time-honored game of golf is the sport of kings. And kings don't play with dirty balls. Don't play dirty. Because of you, we can give our balls a sudsy tumble at every tee. The result? Clean, shiny balls every time we whack them. Drive after drive, putt after putt, hole after hole. Our dimpled balls stay clubhouse clean. Keep on driving. So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, Mr. Launderer on the links. You are in our thoughts every time we jiggle our balls. Mr. Golf Ball Washer Inventor. Bud Light beer at Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri. One little cinnamon gum freshens in that big red. So kiss a little longer, laugh a little longer, stay close a little longer, longer with big red. The big red freshness has right through it. The fresh thing goes on and on. While you chew it, say goodbye a little longer, make it last a little longer. Keep your breath on like the Christmas with big red.
Hey folks, the Eye on Sports here, and I'm here to tell you about some top-notch lawyers who are ready to work hard for you and to give you the attention and respect you deserve. It's Douglas and Runger. Kurt Runger and his crew will work hard for you in a number of different type cases, including personal injury, divorce and family law, probate law, bankruptcy, criminal defense, and even immigration. Let Kurt and BartlettLawyers.com represent you the next time you require legal counsel. Their firm has over 50 years of experience, and that will go a long way when it comes to your case. You can find them on the web at BartlettLawyers.com or call them at 388-5805. That's 388-5805. BartlettLawyers.com.
When these crispy nuggets, they're new and delicious. So bring your good friends and your family too. When we've got crispy chicken nuggets for you, come on now, let's all celebrate and come celebrate new crispy chicken nuggets at Wendy's. Maybe you'd like to give a kiss so sweet.
What up? Welcome back to the Eye on Sports with BBALL Jones. Are we back on 1600 now?
Should be.
Nice. Nice. Well, welcome. Welcome to all of our loyal listeners.
You missed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Jay, I was looking at the list of groom invitees,
Oh, yeah?
which is always,
Were you invited this year?
yeah, they asked me to come serve water and hors d'oeuvres, but I told them I'm a bit busy tonight, so I'm not going to be
You're not going.
there in a domestic capacity. I'm looking at the list of guys, and I'm sad to say for myself that
You don't know any of
It's
them?
just no. I wouldn't say I don't know any of them, but there are a lot of them I don't know. Like, it's interesting that North Carolina was a pretty good team this past year.
Yeah.
I don't know any of the guys that are on from their team.
Well, you should know one of them because in the mock draft I saw last night, one of them, a 6'10" forward that I also did not know, was projected to the Grizzlies with that pick that they just acquired yesterday.
Oh, maybe?
Yeah.
The 23rd pick?
Yeah, Johnson. 6'10", forward. Let me tell you right now.
I'm really more talking about the top, the guys that are closer to the top of the draft.
Cameron Johnson,
Yeah,
6'9".
Johnson.
Talk about somebody that needs copy editing or, proofreading.
Yeah.
CBS Sports, this is the blurb on Cam Johnson. You ready?
Sure.
Johnson might be the best three-point shooting in this draft.
Three-point shooting.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Skipped a word there.
American
Okay,
citizen.
hold on. He's the perfect fit for a team that needs shooting, with size, versatility, and maybe the best three-point stroke in this draft.
Okay.
Johnson shot nearly 15% on 6 3-pointers a game this season.
Nice. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I don't care about that. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it doesn't sound like such good English.
Yeah.
But then again, what do I know? Anyway, so there's a name that stuck out to me because, like I said, there were a lot of guys I did not know from this year's season in college basketball because I just don't follow it as closely as I used to, of course. And there is a name that I did happen to follow a little bit, and that's Rui Hachimura. Okay, you know who that is?
Ruby?
Rui.
Spell it.
Roy. R-U-I.
Oh, yeah.
Rui Hachimura, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
So Rui Hachimura is a half Japanese, half black.
Was he with Gonzaga?
From Gonzaga.
Yeah.
He really just came over. He really had just come over to this country like to start for college.
Right.
So it's not like you see a lot of these guys. Maybe they grew up like on an army base or whatever, and they spoke good English. He didn't even know. I mean, he didn't know English. And he's an interesting figure to me. And then I saw the projections that say he's going to get drafted potentially by the Charlotte Hornets. And I just couldn't help but think, like, I feel like they're drafting Frank Kaminsky again.
Yeah.
You know, a 6'9", smooth, tough, good shooter, solid player, and he's just not that athletic, that great for the NBA. I'm hoping I'm wrong because I really like the guy's game. He's really solid. It's just
right.
I wonder if they're
just wonder what makes the difference because you could probably name 3 or 4 of those guys that are great.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now Mike Miller was a 6'8" shooter, but he was athletic. Mike Miller had athleticism.
Oh,
I mean, not at the end of his career after his back was surgically replaced.
Yeah, then after he became RoboCop.
Yeah. So I'm thinking a little bit more about do you give away the second pick? So Darius Garland, 6'2", freshman from Vanderbilt. This guy doesn't excite me one bit. They call him an electric scorer. Didn't we just draft a 6'2" guy from Vanderbilt a few years ago that did nada, like low lottery type pick?
Sugar Wade Baldwin.
Yeah.
The 4th. He was so great that we actually just, fired him.
Yeah, just traded him.
No. They fired him. They cut him.
Cut.
Yeah, and he was a first-round pick.
Terrible. He was a fairly high first-round pick.
No,
15, I think?
No, I don't think that high.
You don't think so? You didn't think Manu Ginobili was a second-round pick yesterday?
Yeah, but I thought he was the 28th pick or something.
Wade Baldwin?
No, Manu Ginobili.
What do you think Wade Baldwin was picked?
I think he was picked 19th.
Oh, now you're moving up.
21st.
17.
All right, so I was right in the middle.
We were both right.
It's impossible. Anyway, there's a couple of foreigners that are projected to go in the upper, the first round. I'd be interested to see who picks up on BBALL.
Yeah, BBALL.
Hopefully Taco Fall is going to show up anyway. I want to see Taco Fall walk up on the stage, even if it's in the second round. And this guy's got invited to the green room. Nick Claxton from Georgia.
Yeah.
Never heard of him. I think it's Speedy Claxton's
kid.
I've
heard of Nick Claxton. I don't know if it's his kid. BBALL is projected to go 20th to the Celtics. He could fall to the Grizz, Ira.
Yeah, I don't think
Take a flyer
I
on
don't
him.
think he fits in with our style of play.
He can shoot threes.
Yeah, but he's slow.
How about Ty Jerome?
That's another player they're projecting a 23 possibly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was from Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Now, like, it's funny because, like, they got 3 or 4 guys on here from Kentucky.
Yeah.
And I only know who one of them is. I guess maybe 2. P.J. Washington I've kind of heard of over the season.
Peach. You heard of Tyler Harrow, didn't you?
That's the one I've heard of. And I didn't think he was a
first round
I didn't think he was going to be
a borderline lottery
I
pick.
didn't think he was going to be. I didn't think.
Well, it's not a good draft. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
it's not.
You
great.
get excited, but they say it's not a good draft. Have you heard about the double dong draft?
Double dong.
Yeah. This is a thing now. You need to learn
to know what this is.
I think you do. Apparently, they're now projecting that the one and done rule is going to end like in 2021.
Right.
So kids are going to be able to go. They've got the date now that they think it's going to happen, and so in the 2022 draft, which is right around the corner,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have all of that year's college players, the guys that went to college for a year, but you're also going to have the one and done. So it's supposed to be like the best draft class ever.
Which year is it?
2022, I believe.
Okay.
And so people are trying to acquire picks for that draft, or the picks for that draft are like super valuable. The Grizzlies just potentially got one from Utah. How about that, Ira?
I love how they can project the draft in 2 years, which is going to be
Really
made up mostly of kids that are juniors, sophomores, and in high school.
Yeah.
How that's going to be such a great draft, but
yeah, dog. Well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
What else going on, Ira? Anything else?
Cubs
won, right? You got the Windy City series going on right now.
That's true. They lost the first game.
Bums.
They've kind of been, like I said, they've been a little hit and miss lately.
Scuffling a little bit.
Yeah, I hate that. But U.S. women's, while I'm looking for the Cubs score, U.S. women's national team plays today at 2 o'clock Eastern. That'll be 1 o'clock Central, or noon Mountain, or 11 Pacific if you prefer.
Yeah. Noon Mountain time, folks.
Yeah.
Set your watches.
USA women versus Sweden.
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with the Swedish national team.
Yeah.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a brunette amongst the group. I'm not even kidding. I was watching.
I believe you.
I was watching a minute of their game, and I'm like, let me just see if there's any women on this team that are not blonde.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough.
Here's a headline outside the world of sports.
I love that.
In California, police are now using crime-fighting robots.
Crime-fighting robots?
Yeah, to street surveillance and so forth.
Oh, it's like deterrence, or?
Yeah, I think so. You know, they like maneuver. You know, like Paulie's girlfriend in Rocky IV.
Yeah, I've seen this movie before, Jay. It's called RoboCop.
Oh, RoboCop?
Yeah.
I never saw it.
You ever saw RoboCop? Yeah, it's good stuff. Peter Weller.
Hey, guess what the robot is called?
RoboCop.
Yeah, HP RoboCop.
Really?
It's an autonomous data machine. It's going to be. It was unveiled on Tuesday. It's 360 video cameras. And they're going to monitor and surveil areas like parks and city buildings.
Freeze you with the crack pipe. You will be under arrest if you do not cease and desist. That was only a 2-game series with the White Sox.
Yeah. Oh, good. Hey.
They lost one and they won one. They got to play the hated Mets.
It's like kissing your sister. Hey, Ira, HP RoboCop will be able to roll down sidewalks and recite phrases to members of the public such as, "Excuse me," and "Good day to you."
No parking, jerk.
How about that? How about that?
Well, I'm really excited.
I'm liking it. There will be no profiling from the robot. Probably will be.
Yeah, I was going to say, come on. It's embedded in its algorithm.
That's right.
And profiling is not the same as racism or stereotype. I'm just saying. Profiling would be like a guy walking around, it's 100 degrees outside, and he's got on a trench coat, something tells you that guy might be up to no good.
Yeah, I understand.
Hey.
There is benign profiling.
Hey.
Yeah.
What's he in here for?
Mopery.
Mopery? What's mopery?
It's exposing yourself to a blind person.
So the other day, I said that to my dad. I just mentioned mopery.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? I was like, what? He's like, what's mopery? I'm like, oh, it's exposing yourself to a blind person. Dude was like on the floor.
Has he not seen the movie?
I mean, yeah, dude, come on. He's an old dad. He's seen the only movies that's worth memorizing, at that age is like, The Great Escape, The Godfather, and maybe some other old movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean,
every generation's got its own.
Yeah, but our generation has like 30 or 40 you got to memorize. You should anyway.
Yeah. Apparently, I was listening on the way in. Somebody.
I
don't know what it was. Some morning show. It wasn't sports.
The Rock and Manooch.
Yeah, it was Rock and Manooch. And they were talking about this Netflix movie with Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, what did they say about it?
That it got like 30 million views in its first 3 days.
Yeah, but
my wife was one of them. I was in the room. I wasn't paying attention.
Did they say anything about the movie? Was it good, bad, ugly?
It was. I don't know. They didn't review the movie. They just said it got a lot of views. Like if that had been in theaters, that would have been significant.
Oh, for sure. But Adam Sandler's had like a bunch of movies on Netflix. He had a couple of spoofs, like The Ridiculous Six. It was like a Western, spoof on the Magnificent Seven or Hateful Eight, I guess, whatever. Take your pick.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, I never watched any of them. And I like Sandler, but sometimes the stuff is just too forced, I guess. I don't know.
Well, just from watching out of the corner of my eye, it didn't seem like, it was certainly a comedy, but it didn't seem like may have either been a romantic comedy or
it's not a slapstick.
A lighthearted comedy. Yeah, it wasn't like,
they're going,
it wasn't Billy Madison.
I saw
that Veronica Vaughn is one piece of ace.
I saw the preview, and it's like they're on a plane to Europe, and then there's some kind of murder, and they're the suspects, but he's like a cop, and there's some shenanigans ensue, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you looking at?
Shenanigans. Who, me?
Yeah. Playing Free Cell?
No, I'm trying to find something to talk about.
We're talking about stuff.
No, I know, we're good. I'm always one step ahead, Ira.
Yeah, well.
I mean, there's only so much I can say about the Adam Sandler movie. I'll tell you the one I liked that nobody seems to like is the one where he was,
fondling testicles?
Yes.
Is that what that hand movement was?
Yeah, that's how I think. The one where he played basically himself, and he was kind of a lonely, not washed up, but lonely Hollywood actor.
Oh, Funny People.
Yeah, Funny People.
Yeah, depressing.
I love that movie.
But it was a good movie.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Plus, I love that actress.
Leslie Mann?
Love her.
It's Apatow's wife.
I know it is. I am a big fan.
Yeah, she's good.
She's really good.
Yeah. I like it when he's making fun of her in what's the one, Big Daddy, because she had worked at Hooters.
Oh, right. I like it, Ira.
Sorry, I don't know what that is. Hey, knock it off.
Ira, little preview of retro news.
Yeah.
On this day in 1993, John Paxson emerged as the unlikely hero, this according to ESPN.com, with the game-winning shot in Game 6 to give the Bulls a 4-2 series win over who? 93.
93 was the... Hang on. 91 was the Lakers. 92 was the Trailblazers.
That's right.
93 was the Phoenix Suns.
That's correct.
I tell you, I was at the Grateful Dead, my first Grateful Dead show at Soldier Field, Chicago, in 1993, and the Bulls were playing the Suns, and I was telling people that a friend of ours, I don't want to give his name, you would know him as Richard. I was telling people that he was Danny Ainge's brother, and that he had chosen to come to the game as opposed to go to the NBA Finals. And they were like, "Oh, that's awesome, man!" And during Grateful Dead have a segment of the concert that's called Drums in Space. And they do like a 20-minute drum solo, and then they play like this weird, whatever, psychedelic music. Well, it's the guy running the mixing board was mixing in audio from the game under the music. So if you go back and listen to the tape, you've got like parts of the music and it's all like, and then you got Bob Costas going, unbelievable. You know, it's really like, it's kind of a famous thing for the Dead. So anyway,
Costas. I can't stand Costas.
I don't like Costas either. And during the game itself, or actually like during the set break, they had the game up on the huge screens on either side of the stage for the Bulls fans. It was pretty cool. You know what else was great this day, 1981?
Tell me.
You know, YouTube just ruins everything when you need to pull something up, and it's the one time they got to have the commercial on it. You know.
Yeah, you got to watch out for that.
Well, it's going to take a minute. So.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, get it queued up. I'll tell you this neat little factoid that I just saw on SBNation.com. You may not know, John Morant and Zion Williamson, the top 2 picks in tonight's draft, according to everybody.
Well, I don't really know them, but yeah.
Grew up an hour away from each other, 1 year apart in school, and played AAU in the same circuit, and knew each other. That's pretty cool. Actually, they played on the same team. That's crazy. Why is that not a bigger story?
I don't know.
They were on the South Carolina Hornets, an AAU team unaffiliated with the shoe company Money and mixtape hype that has now become synonymous with the industry. That's probably why you haven't heard of it.
Yeah, right.
But this is according to Ricky O'Donnell Nation. This is not a story I've seen. Now, it could be that it's out there. I just haven't seen it. This is the 81.
What do you say when there are no words?
I don't know this.
Running the song that's never been
It's loud, though.
How do you know when you call? What do you do?
Yeah, I don't know it, Ira.
Ensemble cast, Jackie Chan, Burt Reynolds.
Oh, this Cannonball Run?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go. That makes a little more sense to me
I
now.
love this movie. I mean, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people, when you say Burt Reynolds, they're going to go, oh, Stroke Race. Cannonball Run over Stroke Race every day. I love Stroke Race, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But Cannonball Run's the bomb.
Both very good. How about a third racing movie from the 80s, Ira?
Yeah, Six Pack.
Six Pack! You nailed it!
I was just thinking, I was about to mention Six Pack.
Dude!
Ken Rogers, Anthony Michael Hall is like a 12-year-old.
About
Diane Lane, I
Rocky
believe.
Top, the music, the soundtrack for. There was another great song.
In Six Pack?
Oh my God.
How about this, though? Here's one you probably did not know about Six Pack. And that's what I'm here for. In Six Pack, there was like the guy who was like the, like his ride on the circuit or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was like real creepy. And I think he tried to get Diane Lane like back to his trailer, even though she was like 14 or whatever.
Yeah.
That actor, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Keep your pants on. The same guy that's Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's.
Love it. Love it.
I mean, how can
Do
you
you know Kenny Rogers' name in Six Pack?
Brewster.
Brewster what?
Brewster Baker.
Brewster Baker.
Yeah, I saw it on IMDb. I knew it was Brewster, but yeah, Diane Lane.
Love will turn you around.
Erin Gray. You know, Erin Gray was on like Silver Spoon. She was the dad's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Terry Kaiser. That's the guy's name. That's Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, and he's in Six Pack. Man, that is such a. No, I won't say it's such a good movie, but it's pretty good.
It's a good movie.
Anthony Michael Hall is pretty awesome in that movie.
Yeah.
So see, that movie was 82. So Diane Lane, how old was she? She was like 17, yeah, and then she was in The Outside.
Was she the love interest or the oldest daughter?
Yeah, she was the oldest daughter.
Okay.
The love interest is Erin Gray,
right,
who was the girlfriend in the TV Silver Spoons,
right,
featuring Rich Froder and Alfonso Ribeiro.
Oh man,
that's a fact.
I was never a racing fan, but for some reason I loved Six Pack.
You were never a racist fan or a racing fan?
Racing.
I'm sorry. I just a little clarifying.
Take it easy.
I'm fine.
I'm not a fan of racists either.
Me neither. Nothing. Of racing, yeah, I'm not a racing fan either. I think you have to kind of grow up with it. I think you have to kind of have someone.
But I loved racing movies.
Yeah, because it's like all the great stuff about racing compacted into like 10-second clips around an hour and a half movie theme that may or may not have anything to do with racing. You know, it's like Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise. You know, I mean, it's a pretty good movie, but you know, really, how much racing is there? There's a little bit of racing, and then you got Nicole Kidman, and you got some stuff going on, and then you get like just a few clips of like some racing.
Wait, which one was Kidman in?
She was in Days of Thunder.
Oh yeah, I didn't like that one. That was a little too later. I mean, it was later.
Okay, but I mean, you got Cannonball Run's not really. I mean, I guess it's technically a racing movie, but not really.
Yeah, well, no, it's not. But Stroker Ace, there's a lot about racing in that movie.
Stroker Ace, yeah. I mean, it's got the.
Who was his sidekick?
The Stroker Ace, Jim Neighbors.
Yeah, what was his name?
Also known as Gomer Pyle. Lugs Harvey.
God, Ira.
Yeah, if I could do something worthwhile with this brain of mine,
yeah,
I could probably make the world a better place.
Can you get that Kenny Rogers song to come back to? We're done. Did we take a second break?
Yeah, we only took one break.
Killing me. That's why I'm dragging.
I'm killing you because we didn't take a second break. We didn't take the first break till 8:30 because I didn't know if we were going to be on the air or not.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And then Super Shane showed
Dude,
up.
Lugs Harvey.
I can't get you any more music right now. I can get you this.
Hey, how about this factoid? Stroker Ace, Ira? Yeah. Burt Reynolds turned down the role of Garrett Breedlove in Terms of Endearment to do Stroker Ace.
Big mistake.
And that role went to Jack Nicholson, who won an Academy Award.
Yeah. But, you know, Burt had his thing going on. He's got plenty of stuff.
Whoever wrote this Wikipedia page is a little dramatic. It said, Reynolds said he made this decision because I felt I owed Hal, the director, Hal Needham.
So you know about Hal Needham, right?
Yeah, no.
No, go ahead.
Anyway, that he owed him more than he owed the director in terms of doing. He said, but that was a turning point in his career from which he never recovered. I mean, that's a little strong. I'd say he recovered with Boogie Nights.
Yeah, but it took a while. I mean, anyway, Hal, quickly, we've got about a minute. Hal Needham was a Hollywood stuntman. And then he turned director. And he did a bunch of these movies like, I think he did Cannonball Run, I think he did Stroker Ace, and then he did a bunch of, like, you'll have to look him up. But
his thing says Stroker Ace was a flop. It was the first flop of, the car movies that Burt Reynolds did, but it wasn't a flop in my book, bro.
No, you had Bubba Smith, you had Clyde Torkel, and the chicken pit.
Yeah, what's his name?
Ned Beatty, dude.
Yeah, Dean Martin.
Yeah, Ned Beatty. He also had
Laurie Anderson.
Happy birthday, Lonnie Anderson. Lionel Richie, Danny Aiello, John Goodman, and Coco Beware birthdays today.
And off the rack, Danny Aiello from Funny Farm.
Yeah, but it's not his birthday today.
Why not? Might be.
It's not.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah, he would have. Oh, we got 5 seconds.
You don't know his name. What up, Trailblazer?
Mike Budd.
Mike Budd.
This is the Old Trailblazer broadcast. This is Pastor Albert Pendarvis, the Old Trailblazer. I'm so happy to have you folks with me out there at this time. No matter whether it's early in the morning up there in Cincinnati, Ohio, or Little Rock, Arkansas, or out there in Phoenix, Arizona, or somewhere in California, San Francisco, wherever you